Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite the show, as we have a lot to get to in the world of Southern California sports, such as UCLA women's basketball advancing to the Final Four. The Lady Bruins finally broke through. Unfortunately, USC was not so fortunate as they fell to UConn in the Elite Eight. Obviously, it was tough without Juju Watkins, but it wasn't without a lack of trying. Speaking of the tough loss, UT Irvine men's basketball fell in the NIT Finals in overtime. How tough was the loss for the Anteaters, and what could they have done to beat Cats? Also, San Diego FC was able to beat LSU in the team's first meeting. Unfortunately, the Gas team remained winless in the MLS, and they were able to tie against Tigres in the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF. Also, the Dodgers and the Padres are both undefeated up to this point. Pretty good if you ask me, and the Angels haven't looked too bad either, but let's be honest, it's against the White Sox and Cardinals. That's the easy road schedule. It's gonna get tough from here on out. And the Lakers have been up and down as well as the Clippers, but both are still on track to make the playoffs. All that more here on the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Spring Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 223 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker or Spotify or any of these other platforms such as StreamYard and Twitch. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of this month. We would definitely appreciate if you were to drop us a subscribe. We would definitely really appreciate it, and it would help better us in every way, shape, and form. And also make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Spring Sports Show, our merchandise shop, where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. Also, make sure to check out our Hall of Fame, where yours truly is Hall of Fame inductee number 10. And also make sure to check out our Fans of the Month, as well as our blog, and much more. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Vital Apparel, and Raw Nutrition Supplements. Also, let's check out what we are all about. So without any further delay, let's get on in to our sponsors.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm. single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrite, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors: Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and Vital Apparel. Also, make sure to check out our most recent sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to rawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR for 10% off your next order. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR. And you can follow me, the host, personally on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. Also, make sure to check out the Supporters Club in the description and right here. It's only $5 a month to be a member of the Supporters Club. And if you become a member, then you'll get a shout out on every show, and you'll get the opportunity to be on the show, to be a guest on the show, where we can discuss anything SoCal sports related to your liking. Also, if you become a member of the Supporters Club for 4 months, then you will get an IE Sports Radio t-shirt or tank top shipped off to you. Also, if you become a member of the Supporters Club for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, I'll probably make it worth your while even more beyond those 4 months. Maybe ship you off a gift card and whatnot to just make it so you get something worth your while after an X amount of months. All right, and without any further delay, let's get on into the SoCal sports action as Brian Francione pops into the chat room. He says, "Good afternoon, Teran." Thank you, Brian, for tuning in. And why is my thing like all glitchy? Okay. And then, yeah, StreamYard must have had like a massive update. He says, in Itty Sports Nation, a.k.a. Big Mike, says, "Have a great show, brother. Great interview with USC coach." Yes, he's talking about the USC men's volleyball coach that I most recently had. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. We'll save that for probably a set point, though. But anyway, let's talk some NCAA women's basketball. So the Lady Bruins are off to the Final Four, which is a first in their program's history, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. So the Lady Bruins were able to take down Ole Miss, which, you know, it was a challenging matchup. I mean, it wasn't ultimately all daisies and whatnot, but the UCLA was able to get the job done. And honestly, this wasn't too surprising. I mean, I had a feeling UCLA would win, but I thought they would maybe win in a little bit more ugly fashion, as UCLA was able to take down almost 76-62. Blah. And Ole Miss is a pretty darn good opponent. I mean, they were able to pull off a big win over Ohio State, or the Ohio State, as Lauren Betts led the way with a whopping 32 points. She only missed one field goal. Might I add. She was just phenomenal, and bravo to her. That's 30 points she scored in terms of the field, and she made one free throw. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was a close game. I mean, UCLA led by 1 at halftime, and then UCLA, just like what they've done pretty much when they've trailed throughout most of the postseason, they've kicked it in a high gear in that third quarter, and then they just pulled away the fourth quarter. I mean, for Ole Miss, it wasn't a lack of trying. It was just a lack of UCLA feeding the ball to Lauren Betts. And they also got 13 points from Kiki Rice. Oh, and also Lauren Betts had 10 rebounds as well. So good for her. It was a big game for her. And yeah, 31 points. This is what happens when you feed the beast. Feed the beast and have her dominate down low, because I highly doubt there are going to be other players like 6'7" or whatnot. So you have that right there. And then they advanced to the quarterfinals, where they would take on LSU. So it was a little bit of a revenge game, because UCLA actually lost to LSU last year in the Sweet 16. And it was a big heartbreaker right there. It was tough. I'm not going to lie. It was a very tough loss for UCLA. But this time they kind of rewrote those wrongs. They wound up winning 72-65. UCLA kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then picked it up in the second quarter. They eventually led by 6 at halftime. They led by 3 going into the final frame. They led by 5 going into the final frame. Sorry, my math is a little off. And they led by 6 at halftime. And even though LSU tried to nip into that lead, they tried to cut into that lead, UCLA deserves a lot of credit, because UCLA held them off. LSU is a fantastic team, especially with Flauhey Johnson, who had 28 points. That's probably, if it weren't for her, this one probably would have been a blowout. She was probably one of the reasons why LSU was mostly relevant throughout the entire season. But I'm just going to say this. I cannot stand Kim Mulkey and her antics and her little David and Goliath. I know what she's truly referencing. She referenced David and Goliath when she trying to reference that UCLA was the #1 overall seed, but I know what she was truly referencing. She was referencing Lauren Betts, who had 17 points and 7 boards, which was pretty darn good. And Gabrielle Jaquez led the entire UCLA team with 18 points. So not bad on her behalf. And also, Tanea Gardner added 15 points off the bench. So UCLA can obviously get Lauren Betts involved whenever the heck they want to. But when they get other players involved, it just makes the Bruins so much more deadly. So good job for UCLA. They advanced to the Final Four, their first ever Final Four. Hard to believe that this team hasn't made it to a Final Four when they've had so much great history. Anyway, so going into USC, which, obviously we found out the devastating news. Juju Watkins is out for the season with a torn ACL. Made me sad face. And USC really missed her against Kansas State. They actually trailed it by 2 at halftime. They got to a solid start. The defense was clamping down, but USC was trailing by 2 at halftime, led by 3 going into the final frame, and just barely held on against a scrappy Kansas State team, which edged Kentucky in the round of 16. Kennedy Smith led the way for USC with 19 points. Avery Howell added 18 points. Rhea Marshall added 10 points, and then they got 8 points from Kaylee Heckle off the bench. So obviously no Juju Watkins, no problem against Kansas State as USC advanced to the quarterfinals or the Elite Eight of the Big Kahuna. But they did, and this was in the Spokane region. But unfortunately, the women of Troy met their match as they fell to UConn 78-64. We knew that this was going to be I knew this was going to be an uphill climb. Every USC fan knew this was going to be an uphill climb without Juju Watkins. With Juju Watkins, I think USC would have had a better chance, but UConn was on one, and Paige Beckers led the way with 31 points, but they also got 22 points and 17 boards from Sarah Strong. That's what kind of concerns me about facing UConn. I mean, Paige Beckers can obviously do her thing, but if other players get involved, as well as Caitlin Chen, it just makes UConn a whole much more deadlier team. For USC, they were led by Rhea Marshall, who had 23 points. Talia Von Oliphant added 10 points, and then Kiki Iriafin added 10 points as well. Unfortunately, it was just not enough for the Trojans to win, and their season did unfortunately come to an end, which really makes me sad. So, look, the bottom line is USC needs Juju Watkins. And in addition, a couple of players have hit the transfer portal. I think it was Kaylee Heckle or Avery Howell that jumped into the transfer portal, which really sucks. So it is what it is. I mean, I know why they wanted to jump into the transfer portal, because once they saw Juju back, they didn't want to be like playing third or fourth fiddle right behind her, or they didn't want to get thrown to the wolves when with Juju out, because her ACL injury is going to probably bleed into next season when USC plays the likes of UConn or South Carolina or Notre Dame. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully USC can get some other good players from the transfer portal or from the recruiting class of 2025. But yeah, this season was a sad end. It was a tough end for the women of Troy, but it wasn't a lack of they didn't try. It was a lack of they really wish they could have had Juju Watkins. If they have Juju Watkins, then honestly, it could have been a different outcome. But let's be honest, UConn was just on one. So it'll be UCLA, UConn in the semifinals of the Big Dance or the Big Kahuna. So look, this UCLA team is going to need to play some really darn good basketball. I mean, they got Paige Beckers will get hers, but they obviously have to feed the beast, feed Lauren Betts, also get all their other players involved like Jaquez and Gardner, and get other players like off the bench involved as well. So I'm looking forward to what UCLA can do against UConn. And if UCLA were to win, they would face the other USC or Texas in the the national championship on Sunday, which I think would be a very fun national championship. But in order to get to the national championship, UCLA has to get past UConn. So I can't wait to see what UCLA has in store for UConn. I think they could do it. I definitely think that UCLA can do it. And I hope they can. I mean, it would suck if they lost, but UConn's a very darn good team. I really wish it could have been USC UCLA because we get one SoCal team going into the national championship regardless. But unfortunately, that's just how it is. And, you know, we just got to learn to accept the fact that Juju Watkins just did not play, and she was out with the torn ACL. So it is what it is, and we're just going to have to move on as USC fans and SoCal fans. So that's going to basically do it for college women's basketball, except we got some postseason awards to give out. So the big three actually, the big three of postseason's awards actually were actually named a few days ago, which I thought was pretty cool. And actually all of the SoCal teams occupied all the big time awards, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. So this was the National Defensive Player of the Year. So we'll start off with National Defensive Player of the Year. Lauren Betts of UCLA women's basketball was named National Defensive Player of the Year. Come on, this was pretty obvious. UCLA, with how UCLA was defensively, there was no doubt that Betts was going to be named Defensive Player of the Year. And that was pretty darn cool if you ask me. So congratulations to her. In addition to her getting Defensive Player of the Year, Corey Close got National Coach of the Year. So, Naismith Coach of the Year. So Naismith Coach of the Year and National Defensive Player of the Year for Lauren Betts. But Corey Close was named the Naismith Coach of the Year. She was also named the AP Coach of the Year. I'm about to just kind of put my UCLA hat, my invisible UCLA hat on, and just say, I don't want any UCLA fan or anyone to slander Corey Close's name ever, especially if UCLA wins the national championship. Just because, look, everyone was so critical of Corey Close, saying, oh, she's not a good coach. Oh, she's the reason why UCLA loses. Oh, she never adjusts, blah, 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 blah. This award, or those awards, the Coach of the Year awards, are the reason why Corey Close is a fantastic coach. And she deserves just as much credit as the players do. I mean, in the Big Ten championship against USC, she adjusted and outcoached Lindsay Gottlieb. And that's no disrespect to Lindsay Gottlieb. It's just kind of the truth because Corey Close knew she needed a better game plan when taking on a USC team that was being led by Juju Watkins. So Corey Close obviously deserves the Coach of the Year in terms of the Associated Press and in terms of the Naismith Coach of the Year. And now for the best player in college basketball in terms of the Naismith Awards. That honor actually belonged to, drumroll please, Juju Watkins. So even though she did have a torn ACL in the second round match against Mississippi State, she managed to become the National Player of the Year in terms of the Naismith Awards. She was also named the Associated Press Player of the Year as well, which I thought was pretty awesome if you ask me. So congratulations to Juju Watkins. I'm happy for her. I'm so happy she got that award. She was one of the more electric players. And this just goes to show that with Juju Watkins, USC was relevant for the most part, not just for herself, but she got other players involved too. It was just phenomenal. And you saw last year, she pretty much willed her team to victory against a very talented Stanford team who previously had Lauren Betts. But for Juju, she deserves this honor. I'm certain she would rather trade that award for a national championship for USC, but she still has a few more years. And I'm going to guess with this ACL injury, she's going to be staying at least for next year in terms of USC, because I would not advise her to go into the WNBA draft, just because if she were, then I'm sure her stock would plummet in terms of this injury. But I'm happy for Juju, and I can't wait to see what happens. I really hope she can recover by the time next season comes around. I'm crossing my fingers. I really am hopeful for that. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Juju. I mean, if she has to miss a few games, then so be it. But revenge season starts next year for USC and Juju. So I look forward to it. And that's pretty much going to do it for women's college basketball. So Jumping over to the men's side. All right, well, time to rip the Band-Aid off with this. UC Irvine made a lot of history, but they lost to Chattanooga in the NIT final, 85-84. Oh man, this was so tough. This was so tough. But before that, they actually managed to make the NIT semifinals. They took down Northern Colorado, and then they advanced to the NIT semifinals where they played the Mean Green of North Texas. And actually, this game was a little dreadful to start out because UC Irvine was actually down 9-0 to start the game. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this isn't happening. UC Irvine can't be doing this at this stage of this season. And they were actually down by as many as 15, but thankfully, UC Irvine, being the talented team that they are, they were able to will their way back into the game. Players like Devin Tillis stepped up. I think his first name is Miles Chi also stepped up. Bent Lukton also was big. Like I mentioned, Devin Tillis was also big. Justin Hahn was also a force to be reckoned with. And I got some good contributions off the bench from players like Torian Lee and Kyle Evans. So it was 30-30 after the first half as UC Irvine, like I mentioned, they were down by as many as I misspelled NIT, but let me fix that really quick. Sorry about that. There we go. But yeah, UC Irvine was tied 30-30 after being down as many as 15. And they actually got to a slow start in the second half, but then UC Irvine kind of picked it up, and eventually they were able to climb ahead by 5 late in the game. And thankfully for UC Irvine, they were able to make their free throws, and they were able to hold off the other team. And I'm glad, and this is kind of what a Russell Turner team does. They fall behind, and then if they fall behind, they make the adjustments. And I'm glad UC Irvine did make the adjustments. They knew they were not playing the likes of Cal State Fullerton or Long Beach State. Sorry to my alma mater. But UC Irvine really stepped up in the second half, and they withstood everything that North Texas threw at them. And Devin Tillis led the way with 16 points and 11 boards. Bent Lukton added 14 points. Justin Hahn, 12 points. And Miles Chi, 11 points. So UC Irvine advanced to the NIT championship in Indiana, where they actually played Chattanooga, which beat Loyola Chicago. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say I really would have liked to have seen UC Irvine and Loyola Chicago. It would have been 2 good feel-good stories. I mean, obviously with Loyola Chicago having Sister Jean, and then UC Irvine being one of the better mid-major schools in NCAA men's basketball. Unfortunately for UC Irvine, they fell to Chattanooga 85-84. So this was a kind of a tug-of-war game, as UC Irvine actually needed overtime. They actually sank 2 free throws, which I thought was pretty cool late in the game, but they were actually up, I think, 5 or 6 late in the second half. But unfortunately, Chattanooga made a 3 to cut the lead down to 1. And I'm just going to say UC Irvine just they just kept missing free throws. This was kind of the thing that broke the camel's back. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for UC Irvine. They missed a bunch of free throws. They didn't just miss 1. They didn't just miss 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. They missed 13 free throws. 13 free throws. That was not fun if you're a UC Irvine fan. And this was just kind of the game where this was the game that was decided by a game of inches. And give credit to Chattanooga. They withstood everything that UC Irvine threw at them. UCI led by as many as 8. Chattanooga led by as many as 8. Both teams were able to come back against one another, and overtime was needed. And for UC Irvine, the crazy thing is that UC Irvine actually hit nearly 50% from the field. It was a little under 47% while holding Chattanooga to only 36.8%. And the big thing was that UC Irvine couldn't make a 3 to save their life. They only made 5 threes in the championship game, and Chattanooga made a whopping 14. And Chattanooga only missed 6 free throws, while, like I said, UC Irvine missed a whopping 13. And that really hurts if you ask me. It just really sucks that it kind of came down to a few free throws and whatnot. And I hate how people are dunking on UC Irvine, no pun intended, and saying, make your free throws, or my 12-year-old son, I hope you recruit him and he can make free throws. It's like, look, I get it. UC Irvine, it was a game full of inches, and it was probably one of the better NITs anyone has seen, and both teams wanted to win. Unfortunately, UC Irvine just came a few points short, and thankfully for UC Irvine, they didn't need like a true comeback, because it's not like they needed a comeback like they did with UAB in North Texas. But for UC Irvine, this just goes to show that in postseason play, teams are going to be throwing everything at you and so much more, especially when you're a very good team like UC Irvine. But I'm just going to say this. It was a fantastic season for UC Irvine. They set the record of number of wins in a season with 32. Wish it could have been 33, but I digress. I think they set the record for most home wins in a season. And it was just a fantastic season overall. I will live and die on the blade and say that UC Irvine should have made the NCAA tournament. I don't care what anyone says, but UC Irvine should have made the NCAA tournament, and it sucks that the Big West couldn't get two teams. I just think that the committee just hates the West Coast teams, which really sucks, but it is what it is, and I'll live and die on the blade and say that UC Irvine deserved to make the NCAA tournament. It would have been even sweeter if UC Irvine wound up winning the NIT, but unfortunately they fell one game too short, and it sucks because I think UC Irvine could have won that game. It's just a matter of making your free throws and just making one mistake few. But it is what it is, and I got to give a salute to UC Irvine on a fantastic season. They'll be back, especially with four players getting all Big West, and then they also got the Big West Freshman of the Year. So UC Irvine, I'd be surprised if they weren't back next year or contending for a Big West Conference Championship. And I guarantee you that UC Irvine will be back on the big stage. And like I said, they'll be contending for at least a Big West Conference Championship. So, but we'll see. And yeah, I basically said it. UC Irvine should have made the NCAA tournament. I don't care if the NIT was like for 70th place. I really don't. And it even sucks that UC Irvine wasn't a first four out team or next four out team, which, I mean, I get it. They had the losses to Oregon State and Duquesne, but still, it's like they deserve to be in that. They deserve to at least be in consideration, but I digress. All right, that's that for some college men's basketball. That's that for college men's basketball altogether. Except there was actually one other game, and I didn't make note of this. It was the USC playing in it was some sort of postseason tournament. I think it was like the College Basketball Invitational. It wasn't that name. It was some sort of weird postseason tournament that USC unfortunately lost in the first round of. It was some weird tournament. It was the CBC. Weird name, but okay. But yeah, the CBC saw USC losing in the first round, which really sucks. They wound up losing 60-59. They actually led 31-27 at halftime, and unfortunately, they just could not hold the lead, which really sucks, as St. Thomas led the way with 23 points. And that is pretty much that for USC men's basketball. That loss basically describes them in a nutshell. I get it. Villanova lost to DePaul of all teams, but I don't care. They should have at least won this. This was only an 8-team tournament, and wait, I think it was an 8-team. No, it was it was an 8-team tournament. Regardless, them losing was so disappointing. And you know who didn't lose in terms of this whole tournament? Nebraska, and they're from their conference. Gosh dang it, USC. I'm sorry, but again, this was a transition year, and I get it. We all expected some great things from USC, from Eric Musselman, but it is what it is. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. And if they had won this, it would have been a little bit of an empty feeling. It would have been a nice little final hurrah for the seniors, but what can you do? Anyway, so that is that for now. We can jump to the NBA. That's that for college basketball altogether. So no more college men's basketball until next year, probably in probably in November or October or whenever it starts. But anyway, Lakers and Clippers. So let's start with the Lakers. Lakers obviously were coming off of that disappointing 119 to 117 loss to the Chicago Bulls, which they had that game in the corner pocket. But unfortunately, they just collapsed and they lost off of a half quarter. And then their next three games were against the Grizzlies on the road, the Rockets at home, and then the Warriors at home. So the Grizzlies game, which was last Saturday, they wound up winning that one, 134 to 127. All right, that's a good win. I mean, it seems like the Lakers have the answer for the Memphis Grizzlies. You shouldn't have poked the bear, Dylan Brooks. You shouldn't have poked the bear. So after that win over the Grizzlies, the Lakers returned home to the Crypto.com Arena, still will forever be Staples Center, where the Lakers took down the Houston Rockets 104 to 98. They played smart. It was a defensive battle, I'll say that. But the Lakers were able to hold on against the Rockets, and that was encouraging for the Lakers. Unfortunately, this game wasn't as encouraging as the Lakers lost to the Golden State Warriors 123 to 116. And it sucks because the Lakers kind of got into an early hole, and they were down by quite a bit at halftime, down by 13 at halftime. But Lakers tried to mount a comeback, but the bad man himself, Steph Curry, had other plans. He finished with 37 points. Even though LeBron James had 33 points of his own, it was just not enough for the Lakers to overcome. And Rui Hachimura made his back. He had 24 points. Austin Reeves had 31 points. Luka Doncic only had 19 points, which they kind of need a little bit more production from him. And Jackson Hayes only played 15 minutes. It doesn't look like I'm hoping he didn't injure something. I actually didn't catch all of this game, but Jackson Hayes, he only played 15 minutes. He had a whopping 2 points and 3 boards, which really sucks. But it is what it is, and I can only imagine what the final stats were when it came to both teams. I bet you the Warriors made like 1,000 3-pointers. They made 9. Okay, well, this wasn't too bad. I mean, the Lakers made 18 threes. The Warriors made 19 threes, which, okay, that's not terrible. Free throws, Lakers only missed 3. Warriors missed 5. That's not too terrible. Lakers did get out rebounded 46 to 39, which, okay, they got to clean that up. The Lakers won the turnover battle. So it wasn't a lack of the Lakers sucked, and the field goal percentage wasn't too far off from one another. It was just a matter of Steph Curry popping off and the Lakers just falling into an early hole and just not recovering, which it sucks because the Lakers, I would have liked to have seen the Lakers get the 4-game sweep over those dreaded division rival Golden State Warriors. But I digress. And speaking of NBA, David Crooks pops in the chat room. He says, "Yup." I guess he was referring to USC. So sorry for not not showing your comments earlier, DC. He says for UCLA, they got to feed those bigs for UConn in. Okay, for UCLA, they got to get those bigs for UConn in foul trouble early. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. But they got to get those bigs for UConn in foul trouble early. Okay, well, that's a good point. Yeah, that's because without the UConn bigs, no one's going to be able to guard Lauren Betts. So, yeah, good point on that, Davidson. I appreciate that. So, back to the Lakers. Lakers are back in action tonight when they host the New Orleans Pelicans. I swear to all that is holy, if the Lakers find a way to lose this game, I'm going to freak out. Because the Lakers should not be losing to a team like the Pelicans. Otherwise, every Pelicans fan is going to be on their high horse saying, oh, the Pelicans won the Anthony Davis trade. Where's Anthony Davis? Oh, no. And the Lakers schedule, I mentioned this last week. It's a brutal end. After the Pelicans game, they're at OKC Sunday and Tuesday. Wednesday, they're in Dallas for the first meeting following the Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic trade. Friday, they're home against Houston. Well, they can beat Houston, but it still remains to be seen. And then Sunday, the Lakers play the Trailblazers. Okay. A lot of those games are very tough. They've got 4 out of their next 6 are against playoff contenders. So we shall see what the Lakers can do. So hopefully for the Lakers' sake, they can pull out the win. As for the Clippers have been a little up and down. They've won 2 straight. They stomped all over the Pelicans, 114-98, and they took down the Magic 96-87. But they did lose to the Cavs 127-122. But they did beat the New York teams, the Nets and the Knicks, quite handily. And then like I mentioned, they lost to the Thunder in close fashion. So no big deal for the Clips. They're in 8th place in the Western Conference. So look, the Clippers are probably, if Kawhi still continues to play like Kawhi, this team is going to be a team no one wants to face in the postseason. They've got Dallas at home twice, Friday and Saturday, today and tomorrow. And then they've got San Antonio on Tuesday, and then Houston on Wednesday. So they've got the Texas 4-step or the Texas square dance between the Dallas Mavericks twice, the San Antonio Spurs once, and then the Houston Rockets. And then they close off the regular season against Sacramento and Golden State. To the Clippers, please beat the Warriors. I mean, they've had the Warriors number for the most part. But we shall see what happens on Sunday, because that has a lot of implications for the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Clippers on the line. So Clippers, please beat those pesky Warriors. If anyone can beat the Warriors or find a way to slow them down, it's the Clippers, because they've got Kawhi Leonard, and even though the Warriors are playing good with Jimmy Butler, admittingly, it's going to be tough. So for the Warriors, you all have probably heard on the NorCal Sports Report. Boo! The Warriors have a very manageable schedule going forward, and I hate to kind of veer away from the SoCal teams, but the Warriors are in 5th place, 1 game behind the Lakers, and if they snatch the Pacific Division right from the Lakers' noses, then the Lakers won't have any tiebreaker with the Nuggets. As the Warriors have Denver, Houston, Phoenix, San Antonio, Portland, and Clippers. So 3 out of those 6 teams that I just mentioned are playoff teams, or at least play-in teams. Well, I guess Phoenix can also be a play-in team too, but Spurs and T-Blazers are not anywhere near a playoff caliber team. Clippers can, but not the others that I just mentioned. But there you have it. That's basically going to do it for the NBA. We're going to take ourselves a commercial break. When we come back, we've got some MLS, NHL, MLB, and so much more to discuss here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as The Neutral Zone with Adam Karnick and Zach Popoulos, and Fast Break with Davidson Crooks and Dentarius Locke. Yes, Dentarius Locke will be back after his time away from Fast Break, and I'm happy he'll be back just because he is an amazing dude. He's had a little bit of a busy life as of late, being the track and field coach for Pitt. Yes, the University of Pittsburgh. But I digress. So let's get on into some more SoCal sports action. So let's talk some MLS. So the Galaxy, I don't get what's wrong with the Galaxy. It's like, did they forget that what soccer is? Did they forget that the MLS season has started already? Like, it's very frustrating as they wound up losing to Orlando as they lost 2-1. Which really is frustrating. It's very frustrating to say the least. And as a Galaxy fan who was so joyous about their team winning the MLS Cup and going from worst to first, it's very frustrating. So Orlando City SC took down the Galaxy 2-1. The Galaxy actually looked promising to start off the game as Christian Ramirez got the Galaxy their first goal of the game in the 14th minute. So it was 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy, and they led 1-0. And for the most part, the Galaxy made sure Orlando was not on the board, or they didn't get on the board. But in the 76th minute, Martin Ojeda scored to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And then the tiebreaker came in the 90th minute from Luis Muriel as he scored to give Orlando the 2-1 win. So, all right, looking at the time of possession, pretty even for the most part, as Orlando also had 4 shots on goal. Galaxy only had 2 shots on goal. Yikes. And the Galaxy had 10 shot attempts, while Orlando had 16. Bunch of yellow cards handed out. Galaxy had 6 corner kicks. Orlando only had 2, which really sucks. And Orlando only had 1 save, hence why the Galaxy only had 2 shots on goal. And Galaxy had 2 saves. So the Galaxy are still winless in the MLS, which really sucks. What they're not winless in is the CONCACAF quarterfinals, as they actually tied with Tigres 0-0 in the first leg of the aggregates. So, look, okay, I guess ties are good, but Tigres UANL, which is probably in one of those international leagues like Premier League and whatnot, they won the possession battle 53.8% to 46.2%. So overall, it was a 0-0 draw, but I'll give the Galaxy credit. They held their own against a team like this. Unfortunately, they're not going to have the luxury of playing in the United States because now the Tigres will be hosting the second leg, and Galaxy are going to need to learn to win on the road. So the next game for the Galaxy is tomorrow when they play at Real Salt Lake. So going to be a fun matchup right there. I just hope for LA's sake or the Galaxy's sake, they're able to actually show up instead of getting shown up. Now for LAFC. So LAFC actually had the honor of playing San Diego FC in the team's first ever meeting. And San Diego, just like the Galaxy in their first meeting, they took down LAFC 3-2. So this was a very weird game. So San Diego actually got on the board first, courtesy of Christopher McVeigh, not related to Sean McVeigh. So San Diego led 1-0. 12 minutes after, they got another goal from Oni Valakari. So suddenly San Diego doubled its lead to 2-0. And then I think this was on a free kick. San Diego's Alex Mighton, 7 minutes after Oni's goal, he's booted in the goal. So suddenly San Diego was up 3-0. That's probably the worst lead any MLS team or any soccer team could be facing. Kind of like in hockey. But LAFC actually did not give up. 3 minutes after that penalty kick from San Diego's Alex Mighton, they actually got a goal from Artem Simolayakov. That's probably the best I can do. So he managed to get a goal, and then 5 minutes into extra time, LAFC managed to get a goal from Cengiz Under. Cengiz Under, as LAFC was only down 1 goal. But in the 53rd minute, Igor Jesus got a red card, which left LAFC down a player. And eventually San Diego, even though they didn't score, they kept LAFC off the board. And eventually San Diego actually wound up winning 3-2. And they actually wound up winning their first ever home match, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So hard-fought win against a perennial good team in the MLS. San Diego obviously dominated possession. They obviously got the jump on LAFC early on. They outpossessed them pretty much 63% to 37%. 6 shots on goal to San Diego to LAFC's 4. 1 red card obviously was to Jesus. That red card can really hurt you if you're LAFC, and it just goes to show that you got to keep your composure even on the road against a team like San Diego, because San Diego is starting to become pretty darn good, if you ask me. I mean, this expansion team certainly does have its true good benefits, and the fact that San Diego FC didn't even win a home match prior to this, go figure. But yeah, good win for San Diego. LAFC obviously deserves a lot of credit. Most teams would have probably folded when down 3-0. But LAFC got 2 quick goals in the span of 10 minutes, which I thought was pretty impressive. So tough one for LAFC, but they actually did bounce back quite nicely as LAFC managed to get a win in their CONCACAF semifinal as they took down Miami. Yeah, Inter Miami CF 1-0, as it was scoreless at halftime, but then Nathan Ordaz scored in the 57th minute to give LAFC the 1-0 lead. And this was the first leg. So even though Miami, with their pretty boy soccer player, we all know who he is, even with Inter Miami having their superstar player Lionel Messi, I think they have Lionel Messi. Even with their talent, LAFC was able to take them down. I had my concerns when it came to this, just because Inter Miami actually is the best team in the MLS, which I think is I can't believe Inter Miami actually has such a strong team. It's ridiculous if you ask me, but it is what it is. And yeah. I will say it was a fun win. I was quite impressed by LAFC. I thought that this was going to be one of those games where Inter Miami is going to pull off the win, but they managed to take Lionel Messi out of the equation, even though Miami did outpossess LAFC. But it is what it is, and the second leg will be next Tuesday. So we shall see what LAFC has in store for us. And I like how the headline on ESPN says, LAFC edges Inter Miami and Lionel Messi. I guess that just goes to show how good Lionel Messi is, or how big Lionel Messi is. Anyway, so LAFC is back in action tomorrow when they hit the road to H-Town to take on Houston. And then San Diego is back in action as they're not playing the CONCACAF tournament, but they will be back in action when they host Seattle tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Let's see if San Diego can take down Seattle. I think they can, but Seattle, I think, where is Seattle on that? On the in terms of the Western Conference, Seattle. Wait, am I blind? Why am I not seeing them? Oh, here they are. So Seattle is pretty much close to the bottom. They're right ahead of LA Galaxy, which, God, that's embarrassing. Can't believe the Galaxy haven't lost anything, or Galaxy haven't won anything in the MLS. That's sad and disappointing. As for the Houston Dynamo, they are not good. So LAFC better win that game. Otherwise, LAFC fans should riot. Well, all MLS fans will be dunking on LAFC if they lose to Houston. And then for the Galaxy, they take on Real Salt Lake, which is right ahead of Seattle. So I want to see some dubs from these SoCal teams in terms of the MLS. If not, then, again, we riot. All right, but that is going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. I've been generally impressed when it comes to San Diego FC. For being an expansion team, they're solid. All right, but staying on the soccer field, let's talk some NWSL. So I'm going to try to skim through this pretty quickly, but San Diego fell to Orlando 2-1, which really sucks, which makes me sad face. But it is what it is, and it's still early in the season. That's actually San Diego's only their first loss of the season, which I find that pretty funny if you ask me. But they weren't laughing when they saw the loss to Orlando, as San Diego and Orlando were tied at 0-0, and Orlando was 2-0 going into this match, or 2-0-0 going into this match. But Haley McCutcheon was able to score the first goal of the game in the 50th minute. And then 12 minutes after that, San Diego had Chiamaka Okwuchukwu. God, that was that's a toughie. Chiamaka Okwuchukwu. That's as best as I'm going to get it. Chiamaka, she scored in the 32nd minute. And then Marta of Orlando Pride scored a penalty kick in the 76th minute. It might have been an own goal from those. Maybe that's what the soccer ball means, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest soccer expert. But yeah, San Diego Wave unfortunately lost that game. Someone who did manage to win, however, actually, let's go over San Diego's next game. Their next game is against Sporting KC, but both Angel City and San Diego are on a break. They're not going to be back until next week, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So both teams have earned a little bit of a break early on. I know the NWSL has a break, pretty much like how the MLS has the CONCACAF, but unlike the break that NWSL has, they don't play until a certain date, whereas the MLS still plays even with the CONCACAF. Anyway, for Angel City, they managed to take down Seattle 2-1, the Seattle Reign, as Angel City got on the board first with Alyssa Thompson scoring in the 8th minute. But 4 minutes after that, the Reign's Ji So-yoon scored a penalty kick 4 minutes after that. So it was 1-1. It was eventually tied at 1-1 going into halftime. And then in the 63rd minute, Riley Tiernan scored in the 63rd minute. And that was how Angel City managed to pick up the win. So good win for Angel City FC, as they actually are 4th in the NWSL standings, right ahead of San Diego, where Angel City is actually back in action next Saturday, just like most of the other teams, when they hit the road to H-Town to take on the Houston Dash. So Angel City and LAFC are both playing Houston in their next matches, which I think is pretty funny if you ask me, but I digress. So that'll do it for the NWSL portion of the show. Just need to quickly skim through that. All right, so now let's go over the NHL, and let's rip the Band-Aid off when it comes to this. The Anaheim Ducks are still relevant when it comes to SoCal. They will be missing the playoffs for, feels like the 100 billionth time. They lost to the Calgary Flames 4-1, which really sucks. Honestly, the Ducks need a lot to go right in order to make the postseason. And even Zach Pupless and Adam Karnick were even saying the Ducks are somehow still alive for a playoff spot. Unfortunately, that's just how the puck bounces. And unfortunately for the Ducks, they just fell a little bit short in terms of making the postseason. Ralph Clays pops in the chat room. He says, "Good afternoon, Teran. Have a tremendous show." Thank you, Ralph. I do appreciate that. Thank you for popping in, my friend. His show will be going on a little later. But yeah, the Ducks got torched by the Flames, and they will be missing the postseason. This was actually off of a 4-3 win against San Jose, which if the Ducks had lost to San Jose, they would have deservedly missed the playoffs. They would have deserved to miss the playoffs. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, but let's be honest, the Ducks would have needed to run the table for the most part because they have the Canucks tomorrow, and the Calgary Flames are still vying for a playoff spot of their own. Speaking of teams that are vying for a playoff spot, excuse me for 1 second. Sorry about that. Just need to have a quick sneeze. The Kings have actually won 3 straight games. They just took down the Utah Hockey Club 4-2. Sorry about that. So, anyway, the Kings took down the Utah Hockey Club 4-2, and then previously they took down the Winnipeg Jets 4-1, and the San Jose Sharks 8-1. Whew. I know the Kings are a very good home team, but dang, dude. All right, so the next game for the Kings is tomorrow when they host the Edmonton Oilers. That could be a playoff preview, and I hope to God the Kings do not draw the Edmonton Oilers. We all know if the Kings draw the Edmonton Oilers, it's going to end disastrously for the Kings because the Oilers have kind of been the Kings' daddy throughout most of the postseason the past 3 years. And it really sucks because Edmonton really grinds my gears. And then after that, the Kings have Seattle, and then Seattle Monday. Then Thursday, they host Anaheim. Next Saturday, they host the Colorado Avalanche. Then Monday, April 14th, the Kings have the Oilers again. Tuesday, the Kings are at the Seattle Kraken. And then Thursday, the Kings close. Thursday, April 17th, the Kings host Calgary to close off the season. So it's I would be shocked if the Kings wound up missing the postseason. Like, they're actually 3 points behind the Vegas Golden Knights. At the same time, the Edmonton Oilers are only 5 points behind the Knights, and they're only 2 points behind the Kings. So got to be careful of those Edmonton Oilers. And then Calgary is 11 points behind the Kings. So unless the Kings have a massive collapse and Calgary just catches fire, no pun intended, I can see the Kings making the postseason. And Vancouver, I highly doubt will make any sort of push whatsoever. So Kings at least are still relevant. Do I think they can contend in the postseason? That remains to be seen. I think at best they might be a dark horse, but at the same time, crazier things have happened. I mean, remember, this is the same Kings, well, not the same Kings team, but this is a Kings team that was the 8th seed as they just barely snuck into the playoffs back in 2012. And they managed to win the Stanley Cup, which I think is probably still one of the more incredible stories out there in terms of sports history. The lowest seed of their conference, and they wound up winning it all, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. That'll forever go down as one of the more successful stories in SoCal sports history. And one of the more amazing sports stories in SoCal sports history, too. All right, but that's going to do it for the NHL portion of the show. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got some MLB to discuss with the Dodgers, Angels, and Padres following opening day week. So keep it locked here. You were listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports. from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And we are back with the final segment of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as The Defining Moment with Larry B. and the Injury Report with Ralph Calise. I wanted to play Ralph Strupp just because he was so kind to pop into the chat room. It really means a lot, and I obviously have to return the favor. So, I guess we could give out a quick dum-dum of the week early on, as I decided to, I don't know what happened. I accidentally hit the back button, but it doesn't look like it affected the drop too much. But as you all know, I do record this on my phone, and I accidentally hit the back button instead of hitting the mouse and whatnot. So, yeah. Thankfully, nothing appears to be damaged in terms of like the drops or anything, or in terms of the stream. So I'm sorry to everybody if I accidentally like screwed up, but looks like everything is a-okay, and it looks like everything is without a hitch. So thank goodness. All right, but I get the mini dum-dum of the week because unfortunately I am a little bit of a clumsy oaf. So anyway, moving on to the MLB. So it's been smooth sailing for the Dodgers and the Padres as they swept their respective opponents. The Dodgers swept the Tigers and the Braves, and then the Padres swept the Braves and the Guardians. So those four teams that I just mentioned, those are going to be contenders for the postseason. I think those teams can really contend in terms of vying for an MLB playoff spot. It's still very early, so let's not try to crown anybody right away. But the fact that the Padres took a 4-game series against the Braves and a 3-game series against the Guardians, even though the Guardians don't have much with what they're doing, it's still pretty impressive if you ask me. And I think I've been trying to tell everybody for a lot, like 1,000, a million, a billion, gazillionth times, this Padres team can really contend. I think the Padres can contend in terms of making at least a playoff spot. Can they contend the National League altogether? I think so, but it's going to be tough with all those talents. So we shall see. Again, the MLB season is a marathon and not a sprint. But honestly, I think it's a very promising start for the Padres. I think they could definitely build off that. I think that they're going to definitely make a lot of noise, and I hope they can, just because I think they definitely have that it factor to them. But we shall see what happens. I think there's still a long ways to go. The Padres are 7-0, which I think is pretty darn cool, but let's pump the brakes a little bit on if they're going to go 162-0. Same can be said for the Dodgers. They actually kind of got tested against the Braves, but they were able to overcome that, sweep the Braves. The Tigers, they were able to sweep them as well after that grueling first game on opening day, official opening day in America. So the Dodgers are looking pretty darn good as well, as again, the Braves I thought were going to challenge them, and there were a couple of nail-biter games, one of which they needed a walk-off home run from Shohei Ohtani, the other of which they also needed another late comeback in the, I think, 7th or 8th inning, but I digress. But yeah, the Braves, even though they are without a win, they're kind of that dangerous team where if there's ever a team that is hungry for a win and that's the most dangerous, it's the Braves. I mean, yes, the Dodgers are stacked all around and the Padres are looking promising too, but again, all the pressure's on them to stay undefeated and whatnot, because every team is going to be gunning for them, and everything isn't going to be all smiles and ponies, that's for sure. And then closing off, we've got the Angels. Okay, the Angels, look, they are doing solid. I'm not going to say that they are going to pose a threat to the AL West or the American League altogether, but their only 2 wins are against, well, their only few wins, they actually won 2 series, one against the White Sox and one against the Cardinals. Well, after they lost that dreadful season opener, they wound up winning the next 2 against Chicago. And then they wound up taking the first 2 against St. Louis, which the second one was a massive comeback in extra innings. But I'm going to be honest, the Angels did everything they could to try to lose that game. Thankfully, they were able to slam the door shut on St. Louis. So there you go. And then the second game, or the last game against the Cardinals, the Angels laid a goose egg. But still, they've won 2 series, which I think is pretty darn cool. So I think we could be happy for the Angels for the time being. I will say for the Angels, let's be honest, it's just the Cardinals and the lowly White Sox. We're not gonna ultimately crown the Angels champions, or we're not gonna peg them into the playoffs. But I digress. So the next series for all those teams that I just mentioned, the Dodgers have the Phillies this weekend, and then they've got the Nationals. And then for the Padres, they are at Chicago Cubs, and they're also at the Oakland Athletics. And then the Angels are home against the Guardians, and then they're at the Tampa Bay Rays. So Dodgers, again, will get tested by the Phillies, just because everyone expects the Phillies to do really good, even though they had a bit of a tough year last year in terms of the postseason. But the Phillies are going to be a challenge, especially in Philadelphia. And then the Nationals, I don't know what to expect from the Nationals. I'm sure the Nationals will also be tricky for the Dodgers. And then for the Padres, the Cubs, I mean, the Cubs should be up there in terms of challenging their way for the NL Central. And then the Oakland Athletics, I mean, I don't know what to say about the Athletics, but I digress on them. I mean, we'll see what happens with Oakland. And then for the Angels, the Guardians and the Rays might be a little tough. I mean, the Guardians don't know what they're doing, and then the Rays are at the Rays, so kind of a road trip right there. But we'll see what happens with the Angels. I mean, again, I don't expect them to be contenders. I mean, they're obviously off to a good start, but based off of their level of opponent. But soon, the Angels will be getting a little bit more challenging. The Angels' schedule will be a little bit more challenging going forward. But we shall see. I think the Angels are still going to be pretty much near the cellar of the AL West. But I digress. All right, but that is that for the MLB portion of the show. Now let's give out the Dum Dum of the Week award. So let's give out the Dum Dum of the Week and not give it to me because I accidentally hit something not meant to. But the Dum Dum of the Week is an organization or person that does or says something stupid. No one is safe from this award. So we actually got a few awards to give out. So I'm going to start off with the committee. Look, I don't care what anyone says in terms of the NCAA men's basketball committee. At least UC Irvine should have been in consideration for making the NCAA tournament as either a first 4-out team or a next 4-out team. The fact that the committee slided UC Irvine is just blasphemy. And UC Irvine proved that they should have been in the big dance just because they made it all the way to the NIT, where they lost to a talented Chattanooga team who was also trying to make history like UC Irvine. So I think for UC Irvine, they got screwed by the committee because the committee doesn't have a bright idea what they're doing when it comes to these West Coast teams. And as a result, I got to give the NCAA men's basketball selection committee the Dum-Dum of the Week. So Dum-Dum of the Week number 2. All right, I hate to really give this guy Dum-Dum of the Week, but Ja Morant, why are you trying to, do other gestures? I mean, I don't know what was worse. The time that the Tennessee player did that little gesture when they were playing UCLA, or with Ja Morant. I mean, it's worse for Ja Morant just because he obviously wasn't. In case you're not wondering what I'm talking about, Ja Morant had a gun gesture after he made like a 3. I know he was trying to celebrate, but the cameras see all, dude. You're not going to be able to sneak your way out of this. So yeah, Ja Morant made a gun gesture, and you got to remember that Ja Morant got arrested for having armed weapons in his car and going live on Instagram with armed weapons and whatnot. So, Ja Morant, you got to learn your lesson, buddy. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the league altogether. Like, Ja Morant is such a talented player, and I know he doesn't play for the Lakers or Clippers, but dude needs to stop screwing himself. If he doesn't, then he's going to be out of the league, and he's going to be the less liked person of the least liked player of the league, because he had such an amazing career in college, and then he went over to the NBA, and he just made such an amazing impact. The fact that he continues to like be on this teeter-totter level where he's possibly on his way out of the league because of stupid decisions is disappointing. But I'm glad Ja Morant is getting his life back on track. He just has to make sure he doesn't do stupid gestures. And because of his gestures and his influence, other players are doing it, like the Tennessee player against UCLA, which was definitely disappointing. Well, that's my second Dum-Dum of the Week. The third Dum-Dum of the Week is the Oakland Athletics. So I actually saw on the interweb that if the Oakland Athletics were to be making the playoffs, guess what? They don't know if they would be hosting a playoff game. But that's assuming Oakland makes the playoffs. But I don't know what's worse, the fact that Oakland might not have a playoff game, or the fact that someone would say Oakland might not have a playoff game. I mean, Oakland, let's be honest, it's either going to be the Houston Astros or the Texas Rangers winning the AL West. And I highly doubt the Oakland A's can get a wild card. So I get it, you have to report on facts, but the title should have said, assuming the Oakland A's make the playoffs, there's a chance they would not host a playoff game. Just because the Oakland A's are going to be sued, probably the Las Vegas A's, but I digress. But yeah, the fact that we even saw the possibility of Oakland making the postseason is pretty laughable, if you ask me. I mean, postseason and Oakland A's do not belong together in the same sentence. Oh, that's funny, but yeah, Oakland's not making the playoffs. And if they do, then I'll eat my crow and I'll own up to it. So whoever wrote that article of Oakland A's might not host a playoff game, well, all I gotta say to you is this: playoffs? Are you kidding me? Playoffs? That's all I gotta say to you, and you're kind of the mini Dum-Dum of the Week. But the actual Dum-Dum of the Week and the crowning jewel of this week is the Memphis Grizzlies. So remember how they fired their head coach last week, and I said, Grizzlies, I hope the Grizzlies lose to the Lakers. Well, they did. The Lakers beat the Grizzlies, and they showed that firing their head coach was maybe the worst mistake of all. So Memphis Grizzlies get Dum-Dum of the Week because they fired their head coach and they eventually got owned by the Lakers. I'm really hoping the Grizzlies get one and done in the playoffs. Hopefully by the Lakers again. It would be so funny. It would be just as funny as it was 2 years ago when Dylan Brooks poked the bear. But yeah, Memphis Grizzlies, I don't know what you're doing, firing Taylor Jenkins and whatnot, but you don't know what you're doing. At least you took accountability with John Morant in that gesture. But man, you all are stupid. You're dumb of the week because you lost to the Lakers after you fired Taylor Jenkins. Y'all stink, I tell you. Okay. Composure. But that's it for my dumb-dumbs of the week. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. I'll probably be back Monday for Set Point. If not, I'll probably move it to Tuesday just because I don't want it and the national championship going head-to-head against one another. And then for SoCal next week, I'm thinking of moving SoCal to Thursday at noon just because Friday I probably have plans, but we shall see. It all depends. But for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have an amazing week. Enjoy all the SoCal sports action. Also, make sure to apply your sunscreen just because it is actually supposed to get pretty warm. It's starting to get warm because summer is almost here. But I will see you Monday, if not Tuesday, for Set Point. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the weekend. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace.